There's a funny thing about wealth in America. People respect the guy wearing a $3,000 suit who signs the lease, but they completely ignore the guy in the blue coveralls who fixes the building's boiler. They assume the guy in the suit holds all the power. But a smart man knows that true power doesn't come from renting the penthouse. It comes from owning the concrete it's built on. My name is Elias. I'm 36 years old, and I work as the head of maintenance for a luxury 40-story residential high-rise in downtown Chicago. 4 years ago, I married Stella. Stella was a fashion buyer for a high-end boutique. She was obsessed with labels, status, and social climbing. I, on the other hand, am a simple guy. I like working with my hands, fixing HVAC units, and diagnosing electrical faults. We lived in a beautiful, spacious apartment on the 3rd floor of the high-rise. I told Stella we got to live there rent-free as an employee perk for me being on call 24/7. She hated it. She constantly complained that she was married to a glorified janitor and that living on the 3rd floor was embarrassing. What Stella didn't know, what no one knew except my lawyers, is that I wasn't just the maintenance supervisor. My grandfather built that skyscraper in the 1980s. When he passed away, the property was placed into an ironclad blind trust in my name. I legally own the entire $50 million building, and the management company answers directly to me. I kept it a secret because I wanted a wife who loved the mechanic, not the millionaire. I thought I had found that in Stella. I was wrong. Stella's resentment toward me boiled over when a new tenant moved into Penthouse 4. His name was Preston. Preston was a 38-year-old day trader. He drove a leased Aston Martin, wore shirts unbuttoned halfway down his chest, and treated the building staff like absolute garbage. He snapped his fingers at the doormen and constantly filed ridiculous maintenance requests just to boss me around. Unfortunately, Stella met Preston at the building's private rooftop pool. Suddenly, Stella was defending Preston's arrogant behavior. "Elias, he pays $12,000 a month in rent," she would snap at me when I complained about him. "He's a high-value man. You should treat him with more respect. Maybe if you had his ambition, we wouldn't be living in the staff quarters." The red flag started flashing like a fire alarm panel. First, her schedule. Stella started working from home much more often, but when I came down to our apartment for lunch, she was never there. Second, her wardrobe. She started wearing incredibly expensive jewelry, a Cartier bracelet, a new Rolex, that I definitely didn't buy her. She claimed they were gifts from vendors at work. Third, the hostility. She started actively trying to make me look bad at my job. She would complain to the property manager, my employee, that I was slacking off and not fixing things in our apartment fast enough. I knew something was wrong, but as the building owner, I didn't need to guess. I had the data. In a modern luxury high-rise, everything is connected to a central server. Key fobs leave a digital footprint every time they touch a door reader. One evening, after Stella went to sleep, I went down to the security office and pulled the fob access logs for Penthouse 4. For the past 4 months, Stella's key fob had swiped in to Preston's penthouse every single weekday at 1 p.m. She was staying there for exactly 3 hours. I pulled the hallway security camera footage. I watched my wife step out of the penthouse, fix her hair, and passionately kiss Preston goodbye in the corridor. I felt a sickening knot in my stomach, but the worst part was yet to come. A week later, I was running diagnostics on a malfunctioning security camera near the rooftop pool. The camera was hidden in a decorative planter, and it had a highly sensitive microphone. I was listening to the audio playback to test the feed when I heard 2 familiar voices sitting on the nearby lounge chairs. It was Stella and Preston. Stella was saying,
I can't stand it anymore, Preston. He smells like grease and pipe glue. When can I move in with you? Preston laughed. Soon, baby, but we have to be smart. If you just divorce him, you get nothing. We need to get him fired and evicted so he has no leverage. Tomorrow, I'm going to file a formal police report and an HR complaint stating that your husband stole my $40,000 Patek Philippe watch while doing maintenance in my unit. Stella giggled. That's brilliant. The management company has a zero-tolerance policy for theft. They'll fire him on the spot, kick him out of the employee apartment, and he'll be homeless. Then I'll serve him the divorce papers, and I can just take the elevator up to the penthouse. I sat in the dark security room, listening to the audio loop. My wife was conspiring to frame me for a felony grand larceny, destroy my career, and leave me homeless on the street, all so she could move 37 floors up to live with her arrogant boyfriend.
They thought they were playing chess against a pawn. They didn't realize I owned the entire board. If they wanted to play dirty, I was going to bury them in the foundation. I backed up the key fob logs, the hallway video, and the audio recording to an encrypted drive. Then, I did a little deep dive audit on Mr. Preston. As the owner of the building, I have access to the financial background checks of every tenant. Preston claimed to be a multimillionaire day trader. In reality, he was leveraged to the gills. He had bounced his last 2 rent checks, which my property manager had quietly allowed him to pay late. Furthermore, Preston was violating the strictest clause in our commercial lease: no short-term subleasing. He was actively renting out the spare bedroom of his penthouse on Airbnb for $1,000 a night to cover his own rent. I smiled. He wasn't a high-value man. He was a broke fraud running an illegal hotel in my building. The next morning, I put on my blue coveralls, grabbed my toolbox, and kissed Stella goodbye. "Have a good day at work, Elias," she said, giving me a sinister, fake smile. "Don't get into any trouble." "I never do," I replied. I went straight to the top floor of our corporate office building across town. I sat down with my lead corporate attorney and the managing director of the property group. I played them the audio of Preston and Stella conspiring to file a false police report and commit fraud. My lawyer shook his head. "Elias, filing a false police report for a $40,000 theft is a felony. Add in the conspiracy to defraud, and they are both looking at serious jail time." "I know," I said, "but first, I want to handle Preston as his landlord." We drafted an immediate, unconditional 24-hour notice to quit, eviction for Preston, citing multiple severe lease violations: running an illegal commercial enterprise, Airbnb, defaulting on rent, and engaging in criminal conspiracy on the premises. My lawyers also drafted a civil lawsuit against him for $150,000 in commercial damages and unpaid fees. Then, we waited for them to execute their brilliant plan. At 2 p.m., my property manager called me. "Elias," he said, trying to hold back a laugh, "Preston from Penthouse 4 just came down here with 2 police officers. He claims you stole his watch while fixing his sink." "Perfect," I said. "Send them up to the penthouse. Tell them I'm on my way."
I took the service elevator up to the 40th floor. When I walked into Penthouse 4, Preston was standing there with 2 Chicago police officers. Stella was standing next to him, pretending to look shocked and disappointed in me. "Officers, that's him," Preston said, pointing at me with absolute arrogance. "That's the maintenance guy. I want him arrested for grand larceny, and I want him evicted from this building immediately." Stella put her face in her hands, pretending to cry. "Elias, how could you? We are going to lose our home because of you." I looked at the officers. "Officers, before you arrest me, you might want to look at the evidence I brought." I handed the lead officer an iPad. I hit play on the audio recording of Preston and Stella explicitly planning to fake the theft. The audio echoed through the massive penthouse. "I'll file a formal police report. We need to get him fired and evicted." Preston's face instantly turned the color of wet concrete. Stella gasped and physically backed away from him. The police officer looked up from the iPad, his eyes narrowing into a furious glare. "Sir," the officer said to Preston, "did you just file a false felony report with my department?" Before Preston could stammer out an excuse, the elevator dinged. My corporate lawyer and the property manager walked in, flanked by 2 private security guards. My lawyer handed Preston a thick stack of legal documents. "Preston, last name," my lawyer announced, "you are hereby served with an unconditional 24-hour eviction notice for operating an illegal short-term rental and defaulting on your lease. You are also being sued for $150,000 in damages by the building's ownership." Preston looked at my lawyer in pure panic. "You can't do this. I demand to speak to the owner of this building." I slowly unzipped my blue coveralls, stepped out of them, and tossed them onto his expensive glass coffee table. Underneath, I was wearing a tailored suit. "You are speaking to him, Preston," I said, my voice echoing off the floor-to-ceiling windows. "I own this skyscraper, every single brick, and you have exactly 24 hours to get out of my house."
The look on Stella's face is something I will cherish for the rest of my life. Her brain physically short-circuited as she realized she had just conspired to destroy a multi-millionaire, only to throw her life away for a broke, about-to-be homeless scam artist. The police officers didn't arrest me. They arrested Preston on the spot for filing a false police report and criminal conspiracy. They handcuffed him right in front of his panoramic view of the city and escorted him out. Stella fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. "Elias, please, I didn't mean it. He manipulated me. We can fix this. I love you." "You don't love me, Stella," I said, looking down at her. "You love the penthouse." "Well, good news. Since Preston is going to jail, it's vacant. But the rent is $12,000 a month, and your key fob has been deactivated." I handed her the divorce papers and walked out of the room. The fallout was absolute poetry. Preston's assets were completely wiped out by my civil lawsuit. With a felony conviction for filing a false report, he lost his trading licenses and was permanently banned from the financial sector. During our divorce, Stella's lawyer tried to claim she was entitled to half the value of the skyscraper. My lawyers easily destroyed her. Because the building was in an irrevocable generational trust established long before our marriage, it was completely untouchable. Furthermore, because I had audio proof of her conspiring to commit a felony against me, she was terrified I would press charges. She signed a settlement, walking away with absolute zero alimony.
It's been 3 years since I kicked them out of Penthouse 4. I didn't stop fixing things. I still put on my coveralls occasionally, because I love taking care of the building my grandfather built. But I also moved into the penthouse. The view really is spectacular. I'm currently engaged to a wonderful woman who works as an ER nurse. On our first date, I took her to a cheap diner, and she loved every second of it. She didn't know about my wealth until 6 months into the relationship, and she didn't care. As for Stella, she is currently renting a 400 square foot studio apartment in the deep suburbs. She lost her job at the fashion boutique because the scandal made its way through our social circles. She spends her days trying to maintain a fake luxury lifestyle on Instagram, but everyone knows she's completely broke. If there is a lesson to be learned here, it's this: never judge a man by the dirt on his hands. If someone disrespects honest, hard work, they don't deserve the rewards that come from it. And if your partner ever tries to push you down the stairs so they can take the elevator to the top, let them hit the button. Just make sure you're the one holding the master key to the penthouse. Thanks for listening to my story.
If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what's the worst landlord or tenant story you've ever had? Stay humble, and always check the security cameras.